welcome back to Animal Crossing New Horizons. I'm dear darling. I shall see what's going on our lovely island of Fawnhallow today. Monday morning, time to stop snoring. I'm actually surprisingly busier later this evening. After I'll be hanging out with a few friends. I don't know, like theoretically, you know, I won't need to leave for a bit, so I was just like, I got time for an Animal Crossing episode recording, probably. I don't know, unless my friends tell me otherwise, in which case this episode's going to have a really long pause in it, but as is, I think it should be okay. Yeah, I don't know what we're going to talk about today. I'm sure I had something in mind, but hello everyone. Right now in Fawnhollow, 6:16 PM on Monday, March 4th, 2024. Cautionary tale, stuff like that. Okay, well, what should we talk about today? Should we check in with Team 0%? How are they doing? Team 0%. They must be doing pretty well, and I can't believe how well they were doing. Not like in a you should be doing worse sort of way, but like they've actually exceeded my expectations of how well they could actually just clear these really difficult levels. 221 remaining, so they're still going at a pace of like 40 a day, which is crazy. Honestly, insane. But yeah, I don't know what we're going to talk about today, to be perfectly honest. Nothing particularly comes, well, I mean, like, obviously what I'm doing this evening might come to mind, but I'll probably be talking about that tomorrow rather than today, because it seems a bit strange to talk about it preemptively before I've even done it. It's not like a big thing or anything. Yeah. But yeah, I don't really know. Was there something in mind? Like, I feel like there's something Cwazy I wanted to talk about, but I don't really remember. We can talk about Cwazy. You might be like, why are you saying Cwazy like that instead of crazy? I don't really know. I think it's because one of Northern Lion's, like, I was gonna say peers, but that's like probably far too formal a way of addressing him. Like one of his friends, Dumb Dog, as you might know, is used it in, like, I don't even remember what video, nor the context. He just went, it's Cwazy, and I was just like, that's a really fun way to say crazy. Not that like I've never heard of someone say Cwazy before, but it's just sort of like a reminder thing. So I started saying it as well. So now I sort of just say things as Cwazy instead of crazy, which I guess is kind of like a strange cutesy talk, which it's not like I particularly want to be known for talking in a particularly cutesy manner or anything. I mean, if it's evident enough by the way I talk, I tend to talk in a much more sort of if anything, overly flowery way or something. Like the language I use is definitely over the top for the current situation of which I'm expressing it, and the grammatical structure is definitely excessive, I would certainly say. But I don't know, it's just kind of how I end up naturally speaking, naturally dictating when it comes to when I'm recording these videos. I won't say I like speak like this all the time with my friends and that sort of thing. I think, you know, something like a flip switches in my brain when I'm speaking with my friends rather than speaking to like a well, myself, I suppose, in these videos where it's just like, oh, you know, something about it is like, oh, I've got to, like, I don't know, talk more properly or something. But with my friends, I'm like, you know, if I talk too properly, they'll be like, why are you talking like that? So like I talk less properly, that sort of thing. So it reminds me of this very funny situation. I'm going to call out some of my friends, I suppose. Well, one friend was basically, I don't even know what exact sentence she said. I wasn't here for it, but she said some sentence and then she just said she used the word subterfuge during it. And then the other two friends just like started apparently not like ridiculing her or anything, but like started laughing and just being like, what, subterfuge? Or something along those lines. And the best part was, like, when I later joined court and they were like, hey, dear darling, but that original friend was like, hey, she was like, hey, do you know what a word subterfuge means? And I was like, yeah, kind of. It's like deceit or something, right? It's like undermining someone through deceit or something along those lines. And then, like, they told me that story. I was just like, I mean, you laugh, but I'm pretty sure I would just use that word normally. And they were like, yeah, but if you used it, we wouldn't say anything. And I was just like, okay, fair enough, I guess. Or maybe I said, I can't remember the exact details, but the general consensus was like, if I used the word subterfuge, they'd just be like, oh yeah. I guess I'm probably quite used to me they're used to me using random words, and then maybe like, I'm not saying my vocabulary is necessarily better than my friends, because I think that's definitively false, or like not unprovable, but it's like focusing on the wrong sort of thing. But certainly I tend to use much more out there vocabulary more often in casual conversations. So I wouldn't be surprised if they tell me, like, sometimes I'll say a word and I'll just be like, yeah. I mean, it's a beautiful thing on language, is you don't need to know every single word to really understand the context or meaning of a sentence. Like, even if I use the word subterfuge, if I was like, oh, you're trying to take me down through well, I guess that's not how you would use that conjugation. If I said to you, like, we're playing a game of Among Us and I was like, your subterfuge will not work on me, you could probably get the idea of, like, oh, maybe it's something along the lines of deception or manipulation or something along those lines. You would get the context of what's going on, right? Anyway, so I guess it's kind of like an ironic sort of dichotomy. Ironic sort of juxtaposition. An oxymoron. Okay, no, it's not even an oxymoron. It's just trying to think of words that basically be a contrast to basically two different things. Of me using like such a, it almost sounds like baby talk, I suppose, going like Cwazy instead of crazy or something. I mean, I often do use words like wild or crazy. So I think this was just like not the next level up. If anything, I guess it's kind of like a next level down. I don't know. It's just kind of like fun to say Cwazy. It brings me on to a very interesting point of like, how do things sound like cutesy in other languages as well? Like, there's this thing which I actually think is wrong now I think about it, but like, but basically the concept of being like, what would you, if you speak a language natively not English, which is not English, how would you describe like what baby talk sounds like, or what are the definitive things which make speech sound childish, I suppose, compared to like adult, like a basic sentence. Like, I think most people would say like that's crazy is like the adult way to say it, but like a baby way to be like that's Cwazy or something like that, right? So something about it's cutified, you know, in some degree, some capacity, and like what are the key traits about it? In English, I suppose, you know, turning R's to W's certainly seems like a big one. Like, instead of saying, like, I'm going to cry, you're going to cry, or something like that. I guess, you know, now I think about it a bit more, it's probably, like, the root of it is not being able to fully pronounce the sounds, I suppose, of a language in the first place, make it sound a bit more childish, right? Like, you would hope by the, well, I shouldn't say you would hope, but the general expectation is by the time you reach adulthood, most people know how to pronounce the sounds of a native language fairly reasonably. But in childhood, you're still sort of learning it, you're still sort of experimenting with sounds, you're trying to figure out how things work. So thus, you know, when crazy is Cwazy, it sounds like cutesy, it sounds childish in that sort of sense. I wonder if it's like a English Wikipedia baby talk? I don't really know what to say, because baby talk is sort of like saying like goo goo gaga, right? Which is not really what I meant. Like, what's it called when baby talk? Doggerel? That sounds like a familiar word. Doggerel, comic verse with irregular rhythm. I need like an example of what doggerel is. Because I was going to say it's a poetry thing. I thought really bad poetry fit only for dogs. Okay. Hot take. Okay, these images are not used. I don't know why I'm looking at images instead of the articles. But there was a time where I was also like in Chinese. I thought like what makes it sound cutesy compared to like an adult speaking. And I'd assume probably it's to do with a pronunciation thing as well. But there was a time where I was like repeating a thing. Repeating a word makes it sound more cutesy in Japanese than in Chinese than in English. So if I want to say something that's like really cool, I'll be like, how cool, which means like good, cool. But if you say something like how cool, I thought it was like, oh, it sounds a bit more cutesy, and maybe it does. But really, what it does is repeating the same thing twice, like double emphasizes it. I think I heard it in the context of like, I think it was actually Matapony, which is crazy. But they're like Fluttershy's name. Fluttershy being like a very meek, like shy, cute character. Her name in the Chinese dub is something like Roll Roll or something like that. And roll by itself just means like sort of like soft and fluffy, and then saying roll roll means like super super soft and fluffy wuffy sort of thing. That's at least a sort of insinuation I got from it. Like I don't even know like my research from it or something. But I'm pretty sure it like repeating it just sort of doubles the effect of it. I'm trying to think of what would be in Japanese. Of course, I'm not a native speaker in Japanese, so this is probably a little bit out of my scope. I mean, repetition. I mean, it's not like repetition can't be used to sort of like cutify things, right? Japanese also uses a lot of like onomatopoeic-esque words, right? You know, one thing that immediately comes to mind is like something like soft and fluffy in Japanese. Like one way of saying it would be like fuwa fuwa, right? Which is a repeated thing, and fuwa just meaning like soft and fluffy by itself, I suppose. But then like fuwa fuwa together, I think I assume gives the impression of like super soft and fluffy. Like it's like saying fluffy wuffy. I guess maybe it's just W's in English, which make it sound childish. English using W sounds childish. Why do kids replace the R and L sounds with W? Quora. Let's see if there's any. Whittle. Yeah, that's true. What words sound childish to you guys? Widely used by... Okay, that's not really what I want. It sounds childish. Does it sound childish to use ew? That's not really what I meant. Sound kind of childish if you stop and think of it, but everyone uses. Does your language have words like walkie-talkie? There you go. In French, sprays are... Okay. In French, sprays are sometimes called psh, and it's because of a noise it makes. That's pretty funny. So what? Lollipop ladies, that's true. Talkie-walkies in French. Dutch has a lot of them. Half our language consists of words that could be child speak. Fridge, cold cast, cold closet. And I don't know if that's really... I mean, maybe that's what I'm thinking of. I don't know. I think it's more of a way of modifying a word which is not inherently associated to be a childish word. And that makes it sound childish. I guess it really is just pronunciation. And I never really thought about it. How did I used to pronounce words in Chinese when I was younger? I genuinely could not tell you. Jiyang. I'm just saying it higher. What does childish speak sound like in non-English languages? Why does Spanish sound more childish to you? Okay, I don't know. Why is the Japanese language spoken by adults so full of baby talk and onomatopoeia? What? That's so harsh things that you're saying. The association you're making between onomatopoeia and baby talk is not as strong in Japanese as it is in English. That's very, very true. Cultural context. Do sound infantile? I guess so. I mean, yeah, but like it's also like the context of a language itself, you know, if that's like what it only sounds childish because of our preconceived notions about it, right? Like if you grew up in a language where like, you know, repeated sounds weren't childish in the slightest, then you would be like, oh, you know, that just sounds like a perfectly normal word to use, right? I don't know. What kinds of common speech impediments exist in other languages? I mean, I guess that's kind of what I meant. Hearing a young Spanish-speaking child pronouncing flapped R's as L's once. Native speakers cannot trill their R's. Interesting. Interesting. This person has arthritis and has issues making the W hand shape, which is seen like a speech impediment in sign language. That I've honestly never considered before. Norwegian rolled R's. It's always rolled R. Can I do it anymore? Arriba. I can't work it into a word, but I can do it. I can make that sort of rolled R sound by itself. Sometimes. In Hindi, we have one called Tutlapan. It is when natives pronounce the... Oh. This is phonetic language, I don't know. When adults speak to children, they put on a totally voice. That's cool. Some Czech children can't pronounce an R with this word on top of it. Interesting. Rolling R's. Why is rolling R so difficult? Guttural R in French, that makes sense. I didn't really think about that. Okay, so if it's a speech impediment, I kind of like... I don't know. It's more like Because I mean, it feels strange equating speech impediment to, like, a child learning the language, you know? Not to say that there definitely isn't some, like, overlap or something like that, and I don't also mean to say it in, like, a demeaning way or anything like that, but it feels like fundamentally there is a difference between the difficulties within it. Like, you know, with a speech impediment, I'm not an expert in speech impediment, so by all means don't trust what I'm saying necessarily. Speech impediments is like it's not like a physical blocker, but it's like a literal blocker. But with a child learning a language, it's more to do with the fact that they're just not experienced enough with language and the sounds and the movements you have to make with your mouth, I suppose, to actually reproduce the sounds. Yeah, right? I don't really know. I don't know. My voice has a way higher pitch when speaking my native language compared to English. Is there a reason for this? I don't know. Does mine? Maybe. I don't know. Actually, now I think about it, I had this comment actually to one of my friends when she spoke Mandarin. She's speaks Cantonese, I suppose, mainly, but when she was learning Mandarin for a little bit, and when she spoke Mandarin to me, I think she asked for, like, commentary of, like, what her Chinese, like, voice sounded like, and I remember saying something along the lines of it. It was like, when you speak Chinese, you sound like more childish compared to when you speak English, for some reason. Like, I can't put my finger on quite why, but it's just like the way that certain sounds were pronounced. I guess I instinctively knew that sounds like a child saying it or something, which obviously, given, like, stripped all the context of a conversation and the fact that it was more of a serious discussion, you know, I mean, paraphrasing it sounds like more of an insult than it actually was given as, and I suppose hopefully taken as well. It was just I just don't really think about that, but I can't really remember what she sounds like when she spoke Mandarin, unfortunately, anymore. So there's definitely something. There's definitely some sort of instinctive thing where it's just like, that sounds instinctively different, you know? And I guess it just is when the pronunciation of it is not quite the same, but it's not like any pronunciation, you know? A specific pronunciations to do with the formative years of when you're learning a language, I suppose, as a child. Of, I assume, easily conflated sounds together. I don't really know. Cwazy, isn't it? To come full circle with it. I wish I could give you a better answer, but I genuinely can't, because I don't really know what the ingredients are to making it sound more childish to not. But anyway, I guess I'll round this episode up here anyway. So, if you have been watching, thank you very much. It's been Animal Crossing New Horizons. I've been Dear Darling. Likes, comments, subscription, shares, greatly appreciated. Socials, Discord down below. Hope we see each other again, but for now, it's our farewell. So until next time, bye-bye for now.